Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Small Business Heroes, a video podcast series where we learn business strategies from entrepreneurs and business professionals. In today's episode, we have Troy Titus from Scale-Tech Limited, Iowa. Troy comes from an interesting background of farming and then went on to become a real estate developer, and now he's administrating CRM at ScaleTech for last 4 years. It would be interesting to learn more about Troy's CRM setup and customizations. So let me welcome Troy to the show. Hello, Troy. Welcome to our podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. It's good to be here with you today, Vinit.
It's great to have you with us in the podcast, Troy. So, without further ado, let's get started with knowing you better. So, can you please tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so of course, my name's Troy Titus. I have sort of an eclectic background. I've not always been a CRM admin. Uh, I've been a church leader. I've been a business owner. I've been a property manager. I've been worked in construction, and now here I am as the CRM admin. And so I've been involved in a few different things. Um, I have a great wife and kids, and love them very much. And I work for a company called Scale-Tec. We are an agricultural technology company that specializes in scale technology. So in short, we help farmers weigh stuff and help them be accurate.
Perfect. So, a little bit more about you. So, you said you were from real estate industry, and then you become a CRM administrator. How that journey happened? Like a real estate guy to a computer guy.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. So my education is in theology actually, and that is where I've spent most of my life. I did a lot of preaching and leading youth activities in a church, and that's I still do that on the side. That's very important to me. Um, in doing that, it's kind of a crazy thing. I got married, and we needed a place to live, and I couldn't afford anything, so I thought, well, I'll build something. It was not a good idea, not a good idea. But that was my foray into the property management. I learned how to do all the things you need to do with a property, and built the house from the ground up and did the electrical and the plumbing and all that business. And so uh, I thought, well, why not just start a property management business on the side? And I started doing that quite a bit. I actually still do that. I'm in the middle of three major remodels right now. And then in the process, I resigned from the church that I was with. It was a great place to be. Nothing was bad. I just felt like, honestly, I felt like I knew that God was kind of moving me somewhere else. And then in the process, this door opened, and I have spent 4 years now studying hard to make a change in, I guess, occupational change. So I've been studying hard to learn to code, and uh, learning database management, and learning Zoho so I could create better products and services for the company that I work for. And I've really enjoyed it. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy being a CRM admin, but I love coding. I love working with people, and I really enjoy creating things with Zoho and creating things in Deluge. I just love doing that. Been a lot of fun. It's been neat to see the things that I could create with that have been useful for our company.
Wow, we almost ran out of space on the left screen writing down your fascinating life journey. Now, Troy, you say you build customizations at your job. So, we would like to learn more about your responsibilities at ScaleTech. Could you describe your role there?
Sure. So at ScaleTech, I have a few responsibilities. Number one, I have a strong presence in the support department. I have a strong presence in sales and marketing. And then I also will help the rest of our business, of course, interact with our database of customers or accounts, as they're called in Zoho, and our contacts, or the people that we actually speak with from those businesses. So I will spend a good chunk of my time making sure that database is clean. So dealing with all the things you deal with when you're working with a live database, because we have people who interact with our database from our support team, our sales team, from web forms, from email campaigns, from texting campaigns, and numerous other places. And so just keeping that database clean, make sure it's accurate so that when our team is interacting with it, they can sound as intelligent and informed as we want them to sound when they're interacting with our customers. ScaleTech had kind of a unique beginning to the business, and so I think maybe a lot of small businesses might be like this, where they did not have a formal support process or a formal sales process. In fact, they didn't even have a sales person at all. They just waited for the phone to ring, and if somebody called to buy something, they sold it to them. So I created the sales process, and I created the support process, and then trained the people in that process, and then created the automations, customized the system, and wrote the code to run that process in our system, in our Zoho One system. And so then, of course, I work with marketing to help them get accurate lists and be responsible financially and making sure that we're sending that list out once to the right audience and not sending it out to 3 or 4 times because you have duplicates in your system,
Right.
things like that. So it's very much a CRM administrator position where I'm managing our database and helping all of our teams interact with it and making sure that things are accurate.
Right. So do you also do trainings with the sales team or maybe support team on how to add data to the CRM so that it's cleaner? Or do you have a guidelines, a set of rules that you ask your teammates to follow?
I do. We have some database management rules, or actually we call them data entry policies, that
Mhm.
I'm responsible for creating those policies. And then I have the unique position of trying to get everyone to follow those policies. uh, and in the structure of our business, I don't have, you have to work with those other departments. I don't have authority over those departments, but I do have authority over the policies. And so I've worked to develop ways to be persuasive so that people will follow those policies, who are, maybe not underneath me in our business structure. They're from another department. The other thing, though, I learned after I'd been doing it for a while is that I may not have authority over those departments, but especially as I began to get better at coding, I learned that I control the computer system. And so I have I've done 2 things. I've gone to a pretty high level of customization where the system does everything that the system can do, so that I don't have to rely on a human to get it right.
Right.
That has been a huge help.
Yes, leaving the process management to the software is always a smart way, right? So since you do a lot of customizations like that, what would you say is your biggest achievement so far as a CRM admin?
Our problem was that we have some proprietary software that we've created, some scale software. It's called Point. It's a whole point scale system that we've created, and that software was not created with an API functionality. So we had all this customer data when people would register their scale system, but it wasn't getting into our CRM, so our team could not interact with it. Our
Mm.
marketing team couldn't communicate with those people because we didn't even know who they are, because our scale system is sold by businesses all around the world. It's not just sold by us, so we had no idea who the end users were. So I created an integration with that scale system. And while I created it, I also added some other functionality in it where it automatically deduplicates. It looks for problems in our database with those particular records, the customers and the accounts and the contacts. Solves a lot of those automatically, and then had some borderline artificial intelligence and how to look at the different records and look at how many interactions we've had, either quotes or sales orders or text, because I create a texting system as well. We found that in our industry, the agricultural industry, email just is not what our customers use. They ignore their emails. They set up an email address because they have to have one to register things, and then they don't check it. Or they'll check it once in a great while, but not often enough for it to be usable for us. But what our customers do all the time is they text, and it was kind of annoying because they would text the company number, which most company numbers can't handle text. I mean, where's that supposed to go? When they text a company number, is that we don't know what department that's for. But our guys, when they're out in the field and they're in a hurry and they're under some stress, they just pull out their phone and they would text. And so our mission at ScaleTech, we want to be the number one customer support business in the ag industry. So that's a hard target to hit, but we're very serious about it. So it kind of was an obvious decision for us. Either we're going to expect our customers to jump through our hoops and always know what number they're supposed to call for what person they want to get a hold of, or we're going to jump through their hoops. We're going to create something that's automated, so it doesn't matter what number they text, the text always gets to the right person. I'd have to say that one was probably would be my best achievement, because along with that, it on the more of the CRM side, is that when that customer texts us, we are getting that information in the database and we're tracking those customer interactions. And a lot of times someone will text us that's a new it's a new contact. Where and before we would just that information would just be lost. They would text the main company number, it would bounce, and who knows who they were. Now those texts get in our system, and we're able to put a name with those, or if it's a new contact, we're able to get their name and their email address, find out who they are. So it's been a huge help to our support, sales, and the marketing team.
Yes, I've seen your text message setup with CRM during the Kansas Zug meetup, and it was amazing, Troy. By the way, how was working with Deluge like?
So when I first started learning Deluge 4 years ago, I think that for Zoho, the training part of that was still very new, because and you'll know the timing of this better than I will, Vinette, but I don't believe that some of the online tools for Deluge were around yet. And so when I first started, it was incredibly difficult. However, there now that you have some pretty good online tools and a pretty good online training for people who are first starting Deluge and just figuring it out, it's a lot easier than it was 4 years ago. The KB articles are pretty easy to search once you have a basic understanding of kind of you have two people who are going to start learning Deluge. One is the person who's never coded before; they have no idea what that is even about. And then you have the other person who maybe knows JavaScript, or they they have done some developing and they're approaching this. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier for someone who's done some developing before. Deluge is probably one of the easiest coding languages to learn, I think. Um, so that's good. If you're starting from scratch and you've never done coding before at all, you don't have a basic understanding of the process of um, coding, it's going to be you have some computer science skills that would be helpful to learn in those cases. So it's going to be a little more of a challenge. But I will say that the online training for the basic entry to Deluge is is very simple to follow.
So while working with Deluge, did you also check out the community forums for coding help, or maybe connect with the support team? How was the help from community? How was the experience?
Yeah, the support team, honestly, at Zoho has been very helpful. I know that you guys are trying to you're kind of like ScaleTech. You want to have the best customer service of anyone in your industry, and so that's a big chunk to bite off. But um, I've been impressed with how many times the support team was willing to help me with Deluge script problems, um, and I've learned a lot from them. So that's been really good. And like right now, that integration I created, it's 2,500 lines of code, which I know for a Deluge script is pretty big. Um, so it's been. I was very appreciative how willing to help me in on a couple tough spots that the support team was. That's been pretty great. But yeah, I use Deluge a lot.
Since you have quite a solid experience with Deluge scripting language, Troy, would you be willing to help out others who are users in the community seeking assistance with Deluge, maybe?
I'd be more than willing to chat with somebody if they just want someone to talk to. I would love to do that. If they're wanting something more than that and they want to, hire someone to help them create some things, I'd be willing to do that as well.
That's great to know, Troy. Now, coming back to the Zoho One setup at ScaleTech, among all the Zoho One apps that you have worked with, which one did you like the most?
Well, you're asking a CRM administrator. So when it comes to handling data and when it comes to creating functionality for our team, I love Zoho Flow. And I have not met a lot of other people who use it. And I think even more than Deluge, if you're not using Zoho Flow, you're really missing out on some easy customization. And that, if I would say that to anyone, if learning to code is just not a practical use of your time, Zoho Flow will be. Um, you can do a lot with Zoho Flow. And when I first started, that's how I created all of our automations, was using Zoho Flow. It's really an incredible app.
Troy, a lot of CRM admins listen to this podcast trying to learn from users like you so that they can get up to the speed with Zoho, do you have any word of advice for the CRM admins? Any best practices, do's and don'ts?
Vinit, when you first started wording that question, I think the most important thing for those of us as CRM admins is to operate with absolute, unwavering, unquestioning integrity. We handle data for a business. That's a serious thing. And I think integrity is top. And here's what I like about Zoho. And if anybody who's read the forums and done some study and done some background, they know that Zoho's privacy policy is better than Google's and a lot of other businesses that are out there. And Zoho has received some praise because of how they handle customer information. Because you guys also, you have a lot of customer information on your servers, and there's been a lot of lack of integrity in how data has been handled. And so for me, and a lot of this is a personal thing, I'll admit, for me, I think the number one thing is when a business hires a CRM admin, someone who has absolute integrity is the number one most important thing. And the great thing about that is I think that Zoho helps you maintain a level of integrity that is above reproach. I'd say there are two things that come to mind right off. Number one, if for the brand new CRM, you've got to look out for things in your system that will create duplicates. That's going to cause a massive problem for every member of your team. Really pay attention to your data entry policies and pay attention to your system processes that can affect how clean your database is. And then number two, you have to build relationships with uh, the people who are using that data at your business so that you can make sure that you are providing excellent customer service to your team and getting them the data that they need on those customers so that they can do their job well. There may be something There may be a feature or a functionality you think is great, but the question is, does your team like it? Um, put your time first. This was a mistake that I made as I was learning Zoho and learning all the neat things that we could do, and I created some things that were great, but not so useful for the team. It wasn't where they were at that moment. Find out where your team is and create functionality that will help them do their job.
Thanks for the advice, Troy. But before we let you go, would you like to share any message with the members of your local Demo on Zoho user group, or maybe neighboring Kansas City or Chicago Zoho user groups?
I think everybody ought to be a part of a user group. It's great for professional development. It's great to connect with other people. And I would even say the people who are technically a part of a user group, but maybe they're not very involved, get involved because it will help you do your job better. Definitely. That's very important. If you're by yourself and you're not connecting with other people in your field, you may not be growing as much as you could be.
Right. So that's what we say. If more and more Zoho users can join the user group meetup, we can have a heartful conversation, and people can really bring in from their own perspective of using Zoho and how they have faced a challenge and overcame it, and it might help a lot of other users in the user group as well. So we really try to create this local communities in all the cities that we travel. Right. Thanks a lot, Troy, for having this conversation with us. It was great to have you on this podcast series, and
Great
thanks
to
for
be here.
setting us time out. I know I have been asking you a lot of these questions in the user group meetups as well, but you keep on sharing so much that we learn a lot in the community. So we keep on digging more from you, picking your brains, and now we have a wonderful summed up video that we can play for our community so that they can have a good learning for themselves. Thanks a lot, Troy, for doing this interview with us.
Thank you so much, Vinette. Always appreciate you and your input and Zoho's customer service. Glad to be able to do this and look forward to our future communication and relationship in our user group.
Absolutely, Troy. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.